Welcome to Athar's Garage. In this video, I'll be working on the Kyosho Ultima RB7.5, steps 6 and 7. So let's get started. So for steps 6 and 7, we're going to need our servo. And in the manual, it shows that we have to use different shims depending on the dimension from the spline to the bottom of the mounting tab. I've already measured mine and it's 15 millimeters. So using this chart here, I have to use the 2 millimeter shim. So let's go ahead and get that off the parts tree. We're also going to need this piece here off the parts tree. So go ahead and get it off now and then trim. And then depending on which servo spline you're going to need your servo horn. I'm going to use an aluminum one that I think will work, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So in the manual, it shows that if your dimension from the top of the spline to the bottom of the tab is between 13 to 15 millimeters, you're going to use the M3x10 screws. And if it is 15 to 16 millimeters, we're going to use the 3x8 millimeters screws. So let's go ahead and get those. Since I'm at 15 millimeters and using the 2 millimeter shims, I'll be using the 3x10 millimeter screws. And we're going to use 4 washers. They're 3x7.5 to install them onto the mounting points. All right, so I got my screws with washers on. Now we're gonna install the spacer. I'll be using the 2 millimeter spacer. And then we can go ahead and install the screws. I'm gonna go ahead and clean the screw that's going into the servo, since I will be using some Loctite on here. Don't want that to back out. And what I did for the servo horn is I took one of these ProTech RC servos. This is what it normally comes out like. Got it with the servo, and I cut off the outermost hole and rounded it off the best I could, so that way it doesn't interfere with anything. So I'm going to try this out and hopefully it'll work. I believe the stock servo horn is 15 millimeters from hole to hole, center to center. I believe this one is 15.5, so it's a little longer. Hopefully it'll work. If not, I'll go ahead and use the stock servo horn, the plastic one. Don't want to use a plastic one because they will eventually strip, and I don't want that happening when I'm racing. So let's go ahead and center this servo. That looks pretty centered. Gonna add a little bit of Loctite on the screw that holds the servo horn. All right, so next we're gonna install the ball stud, and what I am gonna do is, since the stock servo horn is not flat, it has a slight offset, I'm just gonna add a 1 millimeter washer and then install it like so. And again, this is also going to aluminum, so I will clean it real quick. All right, so the servo horn and ball stud are on. Let's go ahead and make our steering link. We're gonna need the M3x10 set screw, and then we're gonna need 2 of the short ball cups that are on the parts tree. So just take note of that. Let's get these off and trimmed. And it's saying that we can leave either a 0 to 1 millimeter gap in between the ball cups. So I'm gonna thread this in about 5 millimeters, about halfway, and then I'll put on the other end. And the ball cups themselves are gonna be offset a little bit. Imagine we're gonna have the servo sitting like this. So we're gonna have to have an offset for the ball cups, so that way doesn't say how many degrees, but just kind of eyeballing it there, and looks like that will be good. So let's go ahead and pop this one ball cup on. Now we can go ahead and mount the servo, and we're not going to mount the servo in the location that the manual is telling us. There's a supplement, and so originally the manual is showing that we install it in these two holes, here and here, but in the supplement it shows that we install it in this hole and this hole. So just take note of that. And we're going to use two M3x8 flathead screws, and it looks like we're going to have a few screws left over, so we can just set those aside. Servo is on, and we can go ahead and install our steering link. There we go. So that's it for steps 6 and 7. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you did. Let me know down in the comments if you have this buggy, if you have any cool tips or tricks. I'd love to hear them. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.